Bonjour tout le monde, bienvenue à Bruxelles. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, donors, friends, colleagues. I would like to very warmly welcoming all of you here in this conference, this closing conference, whether you are here in the Novotel hotel or following us via internet. My name is Péter Olajos. I'm the president of the CEEweb, and in this capacity, I'm representing the CEEweb and hopefully the whole biodiversity and climate issue in the European Social and Economic Committee. I'm very pleased to opening this ending conference, and let me share you with my feelings, because I always feel when I'm attending a similar conference, a kind of celebration. A celebration because we NGOs usually working in the behind the scenes, and I don't say in the darkness, but in behind the scenes, and sometimes in remote areas for years long. And after the small steps and works, there is an ending conference when the lights is come to our product or work or impact. And therefore I feel always it's a kind of celebration. But this dear project is different because the DNA of this whole program is about the awareness raising. So the light was constantly upon us during this program, and it makes a difference. Ladies and gentlemen, the best opening speech, a short one. So I would like to ask your patience, and let me finish with this speech with the quote by Ursula von der Leyen, the President of the European Commission. She said, "The climate is changing faster than our capacity to adapt. When we lose forest, we do not just lose green space or natural habitat. We lose the carbon sink absorbing CO2 emission. We lose the biodiversity that provides food and medicines. We lose the natural storm barriers that protect us. We lose the cultural heritage of indigenous people and local communities." I wish you a very interesting and fruitful discussion and exchange of view over the next 2 days. Thank you very much. I shortly giving the mic to Thor to give.
So thank you very much, Péter, and welcome everyone to the Game On final conference. The big question, game over or game on? Where do we go from here on? Obviously, you have all had access to the agenda of the event, but just to introduce you to what will be the very first half of the morning, I will first would like to take a little bit of your time to introduce you to the general aspects of Game On, what has been done, why has it been done, how has it been done, after which we will follow with the first panel discussion. That said, let's start with trying to get a good grasp of what these 4 years, almost 4 years have been. So just to begin with, Game On is a project implemented in 8 countries by 10 partners. I would like to, just as it had been from the get-go, thank and congratulate all the partners. because of their work in their countries has been extraordinary. For me, it has been a pleasure working with all of you and seeing the quality work that you do. The partners have been from Germany, CEER. I am sorry if I cannot say the full name because some of them are in their own languages and I am not that fluent, so I will try to go with the acronyms. CEER from Germany, BROS from Slovakia, the Bulgarian Biodiversity Foundation, CEEweb for Biodiversity from Hungary, the Latvian Fund for Nature, Namisli from the Czech Republic, the Lithuanian Fund for Nature, the Milvus Group from Romania, and I will call it MTVS, Friends of the Earth Hungary, and Personer, our communications leader from Hungary too. So there it is. So what is Game On in a nutshell? Game On is funded by the Development, Education and Awareness Raising Program, DEAR in short also our dear donor. So to address the climate crisis through a gamification approach. As I mentioned, it's implemented by 10 partners in 8 countries, and it has been running since November 2019, and it will finalize, pragmatically speaking, by the end of October 2023. So better if we understand why Game On, and the very first thing we need to understand is that its original name is actually not Game On. It used to be Game Over. Do not let climate change end the game. And one of the first things we decided in our first kickoff meeting was, is this the real type of name that we want to tackle a 4-year-long awareness raising campaign that is meant to not only raise awareness, but raise the hopes of everyone regarding the things that we can do. So Game Over sounded, even though it was with a question mark, sounded a little bit disheartening, hopeless. I'm Latin American, even for me, it was a little bit dramatic to start with. So we decided to go on with a little bit more hopeful message to activate people. So that's why we chose to change for the branding as Game On. And with that, obviously, we went on. Why Game On? There are so many things going on about climate change, so many projects, so many initiatives. But what we can see is that only if we trace back to the Rio Summit, it has already been over 3 decades, over 5 since we go back to the Stockholm conference. And in the meantime, we have had the Kyoto Protocol, the Bali Action Plan. We had the famous Copenhagen COP, branded Copenhagen, that was anything but hopeful after it. Cancun and the Green Climate Fund, the Doha Amendment. Nowadays, we have the Paris Agreement. And nevertheless, we still see that emissions continue to rise and the climate clock is still ticking. And at the same time, how to address this if there are so many things, so many projects, so many initiatives. And for us we realize that the usual campaign, we're not the only ones, and you will see later today other examples, but the usual campaign of one-size-fits-all communication hit a barrier long ago. We keep on approaching the same people who are in the same line of action as us, but we still lack the reach out to the rest of the globe, to the passive allies, to the neutral allies, to the passive contraries, and so on. So how to tackle the problem differently? We wanted to do as a first stage gamification as an approach. As some of you might already be super aware of, gamification is pretty much a strategic attempt to enhance systems, activities, and others. So to create similar experiences than the ones we usually do, but obviously with a different approach, that of being gameful, in order to have a better motivation, better engagement, better push. Thus, Game On was conceived to develop gamified activities and products to help raise that awareness on the problems of and the solutions to climate change. Moreover, and even perhaps more important than gamification itself, it's the youth component in the project. The young ambassadors that were recruited, that we worked with them through workshops, that we took them to fact-finding missions in different countries in the global south. We went on wilderness camps throughout the region, and we worked on workshops on street actions and so on and so forth, because they are the heart of the project. Some of you are here, some of you might be connected online. We work with you because, just like you, we believe in what we do. Disregarding the bad moments, the crisis that is heartening contexts, this is what matters. And therefore, for you all, thank you very much for your hard work. And with those two components, gamification and the youth, what was the aim? To activate the global youth to react to the existential threat climate change represents. Obviously, climate change represents and attacks so many aspects of our life, so it is very difficult to try to have a project trying to handle all the issues that climate change relates to, because generally speaking, it relates to most issues in our daily lives. So we decided, taking into account a little bit of the expertise of the organizations representing the consortium, to tackle three core areas, our pillars, that were biodiversity conservation, adaptation and mitigation, and climate justice. We know that in order to help tackle the climate crisis, we need to preserve biodiversity, but also biodiversity will be furthermore affected the more the climate crisis keep on rising. So there is an interlinkage there that it's very obvious, very easy to see, and we have tried to show it with the products and activities that we have developed, but that was one of the core areas, and most of the organizations working with the project are specialized in biodiversity conservation, as well as on adaptation and mitigation, which is a core issue, because we know already that climate change is already happening, so it's not that we shouldn't have the need of adapting and mitigating, but this is something that whatever we do from now on, we still need to do this because it will happen. And finally, another core issue that is very important, especially because of where we are located, actually right now in Brussels even more so, but in the global north, and how we can perceive that our living standards, the things that we have achieved and that makes us live so comfortable, do come with a cost, and the cost is usually absorbed and hardly digested by the global south in so many specificities. We will see later on through the different parallel sessions and presentations that we have more as to these issues, but those were our three pillars in the project, and that is how we try to focus on the different activities and products that we developed. But okay, what is our starting point? Besides that, we need to know our reality, our context. So one of the first things that we did was to handle an omnibus survey and focus group in the 8 countries. So to have an opening one, and then just recently we had the closing one that has been just finalized a couple of weeks ago. So to see pretty much what was the context regarding how people feel, what people think, what people understand of climate change, what are they willing to do, what are they willing to claim or push for beyond the individual kind of action. So mainly it was to understand in the region climate change, trying to grasp what were the most accessed communications channels and approaches, the credible sources, the common concerns and responsibilities and actions to be taken. So the round one, which was on 2021 of the first campaign, brought us, I think this slider will test my patience today. As a summary, that climate change is obviously viewed as a global threat, which, I mean, at least it's a positive thing to know that people are aware of that it is irreversible, but that it can be slowed down. That the level of involvement is widely varied. Many perceive it as an abstract issue that is more relevant for future generations. Primarily, human activity is to be blamed about it. we have an obvious fear for natural disasters, and we are obviously seeing them more and more often in the past couple of years, couple of summers throughout the world. But there are also mixed opinion on who has most responsibility. Nevertheless, most people, most respondents agree that action needs to be taken on all levels. We are usually very focused on what can I individually do with a shorter shower or a change of diet, and so on. But sometimes we forget that there needs to be a real push. So for the decision makers to feel the pressure to make the decisions for change. So generally speaking, I will just present a couple of the general results of that omnibus survey. But obviously, in the 8 countries, how climate change was perceived as a real problem and an existential crisis was, generally speaking, not only above half of the population of the respondents of each country, but in some cases actually reaching 2/3 of the population. So there is an overall grasp of how respondents think that climate change is a real and global problem today, and well as an existential crisis. So how to work with that is one of the big questions that need to come. Nevertheless, we cannot forget the fact that there is also 1/3 that either consider it only a small problem or even not a real problem. And that is part of the niches of the population that we need to try to reach to. And then we had the, I will go slowly with this. Okay, the professional sources are not typical. So how the distribution of how people access their information regarding climate change, whether it's TV channels, online news, social media, more traditional radio sources, newspapers, and so on and so on. We see that at the very end, NGOs, CSOs are one of the least consulted ones. So that is why it's also very important. Obviously, we need to do our work, we need to communicate, do articles, do social media, etc., but always trying to reach media outlets and more traditional mainstream sources, as well as non-mainstream that are now pullulating on the internet, in YouTube media outlets and whatnot. Okay, and here we can have a little grasp of how, depending on the country, respondents were given different types of preponderance or importance to the different aspects that where actions should be taken with more strength, whether it was education, legislation, awareness raising, civil movements. As you can see, most of them have an importance, are a part of the discourse, but this also showed us a little bit what are the aspects that we should be working a little bit more in our own countries, at least within the project. So we have the base set. So then it comes to work, and that is what Game On has been doing. I wanted to play a little bit, and hopefully I am not considered a little bit lame with my gamified approach, but I wanted to play it with level 1, level 3, level 2, etc. Because I think that sometimes there is a triumph when you pass in a game from one level to the other. But one of our first levels was that of the capacity building, where we need to start. And as mentioned, we worked a lot with the young ambassadors, but not only with the young ambassadors, but with young activists and young people just generally interested in getting to know a little bit more about these several issues. We, for instance, organized wilderness camps, over 60 throughout the 4 years, which was something actually very nice because we only offered 52 wilderness camps to the donor, but the consortium managed to go a little bit beyond regarding the amount and the participants. And within these 60 camps, we actually managed to make 6 of them international and not only local, with people coming from different countries, including non-Game On countries such as Poland. And obviously the wilderness camps were about a little bit of exploration, a little bit, sometimes more than a little bit of hard work on the field, and also a obvious theoretical knowledge to work. Some of you might have been already to the wilderness camps. I hope that the experiences, despite the hard work in some cases, was a fruitful one and a learning one. And there was adventure, obviously, because it's always necessary in order to keep the spirits high. Obviously, within the capacity building, we also had products such as Eduquest Yourself that are non-formal educational approaches through gamification, focused on the first level towards professors, mentors, leaders of small groups. So for them to then later on be able to transmit those messages on climate change, on biodiversity conservation to the general students, whether they are from junior school, middle school, high school, or university. We will talk more in depth about these issues in the session after the coffee break. We developed the Climate Compact, that it's an e-learning platform, as well as a festival greening handbook that works a lot with organizers of festivals. So for them, whether they are small student associations wanting to make the university festival on X, or bigger and bigger festivals. So according to their capacities, to have a checklist to see how to better green or make more sustainable their festivals. And then we have level 2. After the capacity building, that is, let's gamify this whole concept a little bit. We have created a mobile app for making livelihoods a little bit more sustainable, a board game that has been played in all the countries with a lot of success and I hope a lot of fun, that shows pretty much the issue on resource consumption globally and how it differently can affect, as part of the discussion, the global north, global south realities. We have developed a climate quest that was about geocaching to show the impacts of climate change with biodiversity decline. And the level 3, which was awareness raising. With awareness raising, we also tackled activities such as climate comedy. Perhaps perhaps climate is not something that we want to laugh about a lot, but sometimes it's a way to address a different niche. So for them to absorb the information without a kind of feel guilty or feel urgent or feel critical kind of a sensation. We did climate comedy both in Hungary and in Slovakia. In Hungary with stand-up comedy shows that caught the interest of Comedy Central Hungary to the extent that it was recorded, and now it has been aired, and there are over 250,000 viewers to date. And in Slovakia, they started in an online show to the style of Last Week Tonight, but Slovak, called Tough Week. I will not say the name in Slovak, sorry, I will not be able to. But Tough Week is the name of the program. And it was so successful that there was actually an agreement to make a second show focused on climate change. And in between the two countries regarding the reach through climate comedy, there are over 500,000 regarding the last report that was for a few months ago, so we still need to update that. But we also handled improvisational theater, which is a way for people to also express the challenges they are facing in a much more humane, intimate, sincere way, and to explore ways of working together collaboratively. And this was done in several countries, in Bulgaria, in Latvia, in Lithuania. So those were ways of raising awareness in a different pattern that we were trying to do. But we also had fact-finding missions. We organized 3 in total. One of them was to Kenya, that was attended by 9 people, a couple of young ambassadors, journalists, and influencers. From the Czech Republic, we organized another fact-finding mission in Guatemala last year for 2 full weeks, where 16 young ambassadors, 2 per country from the project, and over 10 climate activists from Central America, from Honduras, Guatemala, Nicaragua, and El Salvador, gathered together in Guatemala for those 2 weeks to get to know a little bit about the realities of Guatemala, what is being done, the famous concept of climate justice, as well as to especially be able to exchange between them, to work collaboratively, to bring forth ideas and connections and to network, and to see how the different realities of climate activism operates depending on where you're from and the kind of challenges you have to face. As well as recently, we organized a fact-finding mission dedicated exclusively for journalists, and we will have a presentation on that later on. So I will not touch upon that one. But we also intervene museums in different ways, museums and zoos. So to give new layers of information to the permanent exhibitions, whether it was trying to see the effects of the way in festivals we tend to overdo it with the waste, and how many times wildlife is the one affected by our actions, or we have in zoos in Bratislava and in Târgu Mureș, Romania, also interventions trying to tackle the issue of biodiversity conservation. We also have them in Germany, in Czech Republic, in Lithuania, in Latvia, as mentioned, and in Hungary, and Bulgaria, which has made a super interesting thing, and that is one of the parallel sessions that we'll have, that actually installed a escape room in the museum, so to tackle the whole issue of climate change through that type of intervention of the museum. It was an interesting thing, and I recommend you to visit the museums in your own countries, so to see that aspect. We have also on awareness raising more high-level advocacy by the young ambassadors, the Central American speakers that were brought to Europe, and MEPs with the vice chair of the environmental committee, Cesar Luena, with Mikuláš Peksa, another member of the European Parliament from the Czech Republic, where we were discussing the concept of climate financing and loss and damage a little bit before the COP in Egypt was happening, and which in a way allowed us to start the conversation, which later on during the COP, thanks to obviously not only us, but the forces and the push of all the people working in this field to have better climate financing. We also organized a speakers tour with 3 Central American representatives, the same ones that had the meetings with the MEPs, as well as a petition. The speakers toured throughout Germany, Brussels, the Czech Republic, and Hungary to try to give the message of the things that how life is different, what are the challenges in their countries. And that has been an up till now. And recently, and just out of the oven in a way, we got the results of the second omnibus survey. And I don't want to open with this quote that comes from one of the focus groups, just to dramatize the issue. But the focus groups, we decided to repeat with the same people that had done it in the first time. And this was one of the respondents. I was pessimistic before, and I am even more now. When I see people not wanting to help Ukraine, they will not change anything for the sake of a higher purpose. There is obviously a sense of crisis, a sense of urgency, and the days, the weeks, the years pass by, and we start, especially the people that are working or putting a lot of their time, perhaps everyone present here, in trying to fight this, a sense of hopelessness, because the clock is ticking. The key insights of the second omnibus survey and focus groups was that the general perception of climate change has not changed. It's still viewed as a global threat. However, and as mentioned before, due to the issue of more and more common natural disasters that can be seen through the fires in Australia and in Canada, the water droughts in South Africa and in Montevideo, Uruguay, and so on, it is nowadays perceived a little bit less abstract and more relevant due to these more local and regionally experienced extreme unusual weather conditions. Nevertheless, by 2023, individuals feel less optimistic and hopeful, and some of them have even become a little bit more passive and discouraged. Because there is a sensation on the whole topic now being neglected, because obviously it is not the only crisis. Here in Europe, we have just around the corner the current war, and all the problems that causes regarding human lives, but also to the rest of Europe and whatnot, the energy crisis. But generally speaking, more and more people think that the media is exaggerating climate change information as how it is given. So there is a lot of work there to be done regarding how we can and we should more collaborate with media outlets, so to try to make the messages still sincere, but straight to the point. There is an increased proportion of people who say they are already affected by climate change too. That has increased from 2022, that it was 32%, now we're speaking about 35%. We have the usual things that are done on the individual level. Recycling and energy saving remain the two most popular personal actions to mitigate climate change. But you do see the changes with the arrows on how it was the voting or the answering for that specific action in comparison to 2021. Did it improve or not? When there is at least a significant difference, that is. Natural disasters remain the biggest fear of climate change, as mentioned. And finally, and to finalize this session, the recommendations. And the recommendations that come from the results of the comparison of the two campaigns of Omnibus Survey, providing support on individual, local, global levels is necessary. Whether it is the promotion of local initiatives or continued campaigns of companies, brands, NGOs, to focus a little bit more also on the positive and not on the dramatic sense of urgency, show how everyday actions do contribute to slowing down climate change, because every grain of sand matters in a way. Communicate what concrete actions can be taken for a specific place that literally can affect you or is affecting you or will affect the person you want to work with. And the recognition and encouragement of even the smallest steps in environmentally friendly behavior is key, because it relies on a lead by example approach. We should have more focus on the solutions and the actions. Too much theory, time for going pragmatic. More credible and relevant info, shared of opinions of proven environmentalists, and how we communicate those opinions, and easier to digest, comprehensive, attractive forms of information. In a way, what Game On was trying to do with the new approach with gamification, for instance. That is it. That is Game On in a nutshell. Why are we here? Or why have we been here so far? And how have we tried to give our small step towards a common goal that I think everyone here has. It has been quite a ride, a roller coaster sometimes. But I would like to invite you in the next sessions. Right now we will have a panel discussion focused on youth-centric policies. But after the coffee break, we will be having a more focused presentation on the kind of activities and products we have developed. We couldn't present them all, but we try to focus on those that do not have a parallel correspondence in the parallel sessions led by the young ambassadors. And you will get to see perhaps glimpses, examples of things that can work out in your own places and that hopefully work out. That is it for me for the time being. Thank you very much for your patience. I hope the coffee have lasted this far. And now we will move on with the panel discussion. So I would like to invite once again Péter Olajos, who will be moderating the panel discussion and who will be introducing our panelists to the events. Péter?
Thank you, Thor. It was great. How many mic we will have? Mennyi lesz? Egy? Ah. Super. Oh, thank you. It's really too much, I think. Thank you very much. It's my privilege to to moderate this first panel. Until now, we thought that we will have four panelists, but one of them, Mr. Mikuláš Peksa, is just cancelled the participation. So we have only three, which makes us more effective in case of time management. So my first speaking partner in this panel will be Ms. Svetlana Vylkova. Svetlana, please sit here. Hello, welcome. Grab one mic. I also would like to call Béatrice Minh here. Hello, Béatrice. Good morning. And finally, Mr. Christophe Bruchansky. Hello, Christophe. The topic what we will discuss is youth-centric policies and policies for the future generation. That's very nice. It seems that I'm the only boomer at this panel, so I can discuss this issue, you know, with really young people, with the future generation. So let's start with Svetlana. Svetlana, my duty is to introduce you. Svetlana is an active change maker with a zeal for climate action and youth leadership. She was selected as a youth delegate for the COP26 and COI 17 and EU Green Deal to represent the voice of youth, etc., etc. So you are very young and talented, no doubt. What I would like to ask you first, that I have a opportunity to participate in two COP in Cancun and Durban many years ago. And I saw in your CVs that you are participating in the COP26. I hope that everybody knows what is the COP. Is the UN Conference of Climate Change, which takes place usually in every November in each year. And but I never heard about this COI 17 or the COI Atlas. So would you be so kind to introduce what is that and how you was elected there or delegated there?
Thank you. That's a great question, actually. So actually, every COP has a number, which is from the beginning of well, the beginning of such conferences. So COP26 was the 26th one. This year is the COP28, so that's the 28th edition of such a conference. COI stands for Conference of the Youth. COP is Conference of the Parties. So COI is the 17th edition last year. This year is the 18th edition. And what COI actually is, it is such delegates, youth delegates from all over the world gather together. They represent their countries, so they have already done consultations within their country with the young people there, with youth organizations, and many other organizations focused on what the voice of youth is and what the needs and challenges and wants and requirements of youth are. So people, the young people, the young delegates gather before the COP and they create a global youth statement, which is then presented at the COP, so that the change makers, the policy makers and the decision makers at the COP, they take it into consideration and they make their policies inclusive also for youth. So they have this idea of what the youth wants and what the next generations would need. And that's the whole idea of the COI.
Did you participate on the Sharm el-Sheikh, the COP conference as well?
Yes,
Okay.
so that was COI 17 last year.
And what was your impression? So it's, for me, when I've been as a state secretary there and representing my country, my feeling was that, it's a huge policy-making machinery, you know, with endless speeches. So what is your impression on that?
Yeah, so it is quite a lot of this aspect, which is quite important. For me personally, action matters even more, but we need policy to help the action and nudge the unconverted, so the people and the organizations that are still not active in the areas of these policies. So if we focus on climate action, those would be organizations that would need to incrementally and drastically change their approach to what they do as their business or as their focus. And this was generally an impression of the young people. They would we would want that we have much more action than just talking, and that there is collaboration, and together we create these changes. So that would be in a nutshell what my impressions are and what some people who have shared impressions with me are. But nevertheless, the policies are important so that we have these regulations and the regulatory bodies to help us move forward.
And I saw yesterday your LinkedIn profile, and I saw that you are very active in the social media and a lot of people following you. And what is the ordinary young people's feeling about the COP and the whole COI and this high-profile policy-making instruments?
Yes, so it would be a very general statement regarding COP. So last year the sentiment was quite much of disappointment, let's say, because also it was the whole venue and the preparation was not as inclusive regarding just the logistical part, because for climate activists, Egypt is considered not the safest country. And nevertheless, this year there is much more focus on youth, so we are hoping to see something more there. Last year there was the inauguration of the youth pavilion, so there was a dedicated space for youth. And regarding also policy making and politics in general, we have seen by the statistics that the numbers of people who are interested and involved in politics, either as active participants in politics, as politicians, policymakers, or as just voters, for these percentages and these numbers in young people have drastically decreased throughout the years. And that has many reasons, but it shouldn't be like this, because our voices really make change, and the people that we elect, that we young people elect, are the ones who represent us as well. So we have we can vote for the European Parliament, we can vote for our national elections as well. And it is very important that we cast our voice where we want it to be and where we want the change to happen.
Okay, let's turn to the Game On project. As inside the EU was one of the youth ambassador, climate ambassador of this project among the 200. And so, what was your impression on this Game On project? How do you see? What do you learn? What was the most interesting thing for you?
I believe the Game On project in general was a great approach to activate young people, and not only, because in the camp that I participated, we had a mix of ages, so we had a really good professional connection with other people, but also intergenerational, although the generations wouldn't be there wouldn't be such a big gap, and also between interests and areas and fields of professional expertise as well as interest. So that was a great opportunity to learn more. And because those camps, the camp that I was part of, it was full of experts. So we got really the information from the experts, and it was very easily digested because we were at the ground. So it was not really abstract as for example, we are in a conference room and we're speaking about something, or we are in a lecture hall and we are learning about something. It was much more concrete because we see it all around us, and we see the effects of the climate change in the case of my camp, but there have been also other camps where they see how are people, the local people, experiencing the changes, and we can discuss about the different camps from all the representatives and the youth ambassadors, and gain a very holistic perspective of how people and the ecosystem is affected by the climate change. So for me, it was a great experience of learning and also connecting further with nature and connecting further with people.
We will have a question from outside as well, but we have here a question that's there is an overall distinction of youth participant regarding in the numbers when comparing the Western and Eastern Europe. The focus of interest is different, definitely. What is your experience in case of Bulgaria, for instance, or if you have a chance to see and compare with other Western European countries? So what is your impression?
Yes, that's a great question and a great point. So there is a big difference because of the socioeconomic background of people. And this is due to the fact that people would need to first think about paying their bills and getting their education, healthcare, and so on. So that would be the primary focus. And only once you have those basic needs covered, then you can look around and help others. So what I have seen, for example, I have lived in the Netherlands, and people there would volunteer their time, whereas in Bulgaria they would probably pull off a second job. And also people would be willing to donate for a school in Sri Lanka, or go volunteer for a while, let's say a sanctuary for elephants in India. So that would be a very different approach to helping others, and that's because of the situation that people are currently in. And we should factor in this as we approach the policies, as we approach the decision making and all the activities that we are doing as businesses and organizations, because it's very important what the context of people are and what their primary needs and wants are. And after that, really, if we're talking about climate change, that's why we need a just transition, because it is not the same for any context, and there is a difference in every country, but also in a more regional aspect, which would be west, east, south, north, central. And that's my observation around that topic.
Okay, thank you very much, and not torturing you. At least a little break. So I turn to Béatrice, Minh. Thank you very much. Béatrice Minh, she's a project coordinator the Mindchanger project. Béatrice has a degree in European intercultural and language studies. After starting out in teaching, she moved to Brussels and worked for several years in the cultural and non-profit sector, using her experience and expertise to promote access to culture and participation. In 2021, she joined to the Minister of Culture of the Wallonie-Bruxelles Fédération to coordinate the DEAR-funded Mindchanger project at the local level, where she contributes the developing strategies and the rising awareness about sustainable development and international solidarity in connection with the youth engagement and global citizenship education. Wow. Beatrice, your cultural background is really impressive. I am enjoying, I'm envying you. If I remember well, you speak 6 or 7 languages, no? And studied many countries from Finland to Mexico. I think this is very useful in the Mindchanger project as well, because there is 5 or 6 EU countries, but if I remember well, when yesterday I look after the project, that this project action is more behind the Europe, so this is active in Africa as well. So there is projects, and my question is that what is your personal 1 or 2 favorite sub-project, and tell me something about this Mindchanger project as well.
Thanks very much.
Switch on and wait a little bit. Yeah,
it works.
So maybe before. Yes, if you don't mind. Yeah, okay. Thanks very much. Thank you. All right. All right. So maybe before I delve into specific projects, just a few words about Mindchangers, so that you know a little bit of context about this project. It's actually coming from the same framework as Game On, so it's also a DEAR-funded project. So we share a lot of the framework, a lot of the topics also. So we all work to achieve the same goal, as Thor mentioned in his presentation earlier. So we also focus on awareness, on development education. We also have this very important focus on youth. And from the presentation earlier, we also share some of the methodology in terms of project management. So we've also tried to include a bit of gamification in our project, especially in the way the website is constructed. Of course, we've done some research as well, and we also share some of the capacity building activities, for example, because as you mentioned in your presentation, as you mentioned as well, I think it is important now to focus on practical and very concrete things, and you've said it quite well. We need to stop just talking about it and start doing things. So I'm really happy to know that Mindchangers actually sort of followed this nice recommendation and actually started from a very practical thing and a very practical point of view, because in the project we tried to gather local authorities, associations, and youth, and have them work together, or at least, well, either start working together, at least try to develop some better ways of working together, starting from a simple question of what is the problem here and now, how can it relate to the problems there, and how can we work for a better future together. And so this is by focusing on those very practical and very concrete steps that we managed to gather information, and we worked on learning opportunities as well. So those aspects were, for example, how to build solid partnerships, how to conduct real needs assessments also and work on the projects, how to devise projects and how to have this methodology of project management that can actually answer the needs. So this is this very pragmatic level and basis that allowed us in turn to focus on the policy aspects without necessarily having this as a primary goal. But the policy level will actually be something that will be addressed as part of the project, as we will be also gathering youth during meetings, and they will actually gather next week in Stuttgart to discuss recommendations, needs, ideas with local authorities, with associations, with political representatives, so that there is a common drive to work together on how to get innovative ideas, how to get those very concrete ideas and solutions, to work together, to turn experience into policy, and to make sure that policy is actually reflecting reality and needs as well.
And do you already have experience regarding the contrast of priorities and challenges faced in Senegal and South Africa compared with Europe?
Well, it also depends on the countries and the specific ties that they each developed with specific countries due to historical context or even the association that is involved. We see that even though we come from different regions of the world, we have similarities in the problems we faced, not at same level or the same intensity. But the goal of the projects and of Mindchangers in working together in common projects is to realize that even though we face situations and we feel urgencies differently, it is all part of the systemic systemic mechanism that makes us all, individuals living in the same planet, and that we have to share the challenges together.
And this project is also looking for what are the urge and critical needs regarding the policies. So what have been the difficulties in such a process and the key findings, if you have already?
We have a few findings and a few recommendations that also come from research that we've conducted within the project. So it was about in questioning and collecting information from the youth themselves so that they could actually speak up about what their perception of youth engagement is. What is engagement? How do they perceive their engagement? How do they think it is perceived by others as well? And to work on the various barriers that they have to face and that they face on a daily basis when trying to engage. And based on those findings, in the course of the project, we've worked on a practical guide with a series of recommendations, so that local authorities, associations, and other youth who want to initiate projects know where to start from, have a better idea of those barriers, and can actually work together to overcome them. And working on those barriers will actually be also part of the work that we will be doing in Stuttgart, to try to turn those barriers into solutions to promote engagement and make it a little bit better to work all together.
What is the next level? So how you envisioning the next level, which would be to move on the next policy making itself, reaching and working with decision makers? So is it what is your impression on that?
Well, I think we will have to wait for the results of the
Yeah,
working
of
groups in
course.
Stuttgart, because it will be not up to me. It will be up to all the youth that will gather there and who will actually put forward their needs and their recommendations and the topics that they want to actually be addressed by the politicians and all the political representatives. So I think we will have to wait for the for the meetings to know how it goes.
It's wise.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Beatrice. Now, Christopher Bruchansky, international regional officer, Fédération Wallonie-Bruxelles. Christophe has a master degree in political science, an additional master degree in human rights, and a teaching certificate. After his studies, he worked as a project manager in various fields, such as culture in Lyon, diplomacy in Tel Aviv, and in teaching in promotion of French in Groningen. After that, he spent 5 years as a project manager in the University College Francisco Ferrer of the city of Brussels, working on cross-disciplinary and international projects. In 2021, he joined the youth department of the Ministry of Wallonie-Bruxelles Federation as International Relation Officer. Welcome. Christophe, I have a question. The video first. Yeah, we have a video.
Yeah, it's a video to explain what is the youth sector in French-speaking community, because Wallonia and Brussels Federation is a French-speaking community of Belgium. So we have a video to explain the different actors.
Connais-tu les acteurs qui accompagnent les jeunes en dehors de l'école en Fédération Wallonie-Bruxelles? Ils proposent des activités autour d'un concept clé, la citoyenneté responsable, active, critique et solidaire. Les organisations de jeunesse contribuent au développement par et pour les jeunes de leurs responsabilités et de leurs aptitudes personnelles. Les centres de jeunes sont des lieux d'accueil locaux ouverts aux 12-26 ans pour y lancer des projets, se rencontrer, s'informer ou passer du temps ensemble. Le Forum des jeunes est le porte-parole des 16-30 ans, où ils défendent des sujets de société qui leur tiennent à cœur. Le service de la jeunesse met en œuvre la politique culturelle de jeunesse. Le Bureau international jeunesse accompagne et finance les jeunes dans leurs projets à l'étranger, en dehors du cadre scolaire. Chacun à leur manière, ils contribuent au rayonnement des valeurs CRAC sur le territoire.
Thank you. It's more clear now, right? Christophe, you are a teacher and expert of politics and human rights, so it would be logical to asking you about the YouTube star Acid and Sanda Dia court case, but I don't do that. But I would like to challenge you, and therefore I asking a general big picture question, okay? You are working now at the youth department in the Ministry of Wallonie-Bruxelles Federation. As an expert, how do you see the issue of institutionalization? So is it good if there is a separate ministry or department dealing with the youth and the youth problem, or better if every ministry has horizontally inflated with youth people? So what is your experience from Tel Aviv till France?
It's a good question. First, I would like to explain, because, you know, Ash already mentioned each country is totally different regarding the voice of young people and how it's organized. So in Belgium, we have 3 communities. So each community of Belgium has different ministers. So we are happy that in Belgium, we have 3 ministers of youth. That's also a very interesting thing. And it's very great because the young people is direct connection between the ministry and the young, because the federation, we have at least 4 million people in federation, so it's great that. So we are in part of the cultural department, so that also in a new approach regarding the youth participation, because we are in a cultural approach, so you have not formal education. So the question is to help young people to the emancipation, of to be part of the citizenship, and how it's possible to make the voice of young people more clear, more learning. So my role, I'm working for the administration, so I'm not a stakeholder, so I'm not tell you a question of the policy aspect, but after your presentation, I have a lot of recommendations. It's the same for each country. The question of the youth-friendly communication, how it's possible to touch the young people, because, for example, I'm working at the European level, and as you know, that in European, we have a lot of text, a lot of recommendations. It's always complicated to explain to young people what exactly at your level you can participate and can help you for that. So that's the first one, the youth-friendly communication. The other one is the question of the participation of young people. We have a lot of, in the French-speaking community, a lot of young people participate. Some meetings, some European level, youth dialogue, you speak about the COP. You have also some young delegate in the COP during the previous cycle. And it's very important that to be a step more of that, not only just to speak, but to co-create with young people, because I'm sure that young people have a lot of things to do. So you speak about inclusivity, is also very important, because if you have a look of the young participation, a lot of young is from university, like me or other one, but we have no one with the background economic issue, the questions of the minority. So we need also to have more inclusivity and to have time for that, because the inclusivity, more time, for example, the question of the language. So we have a lot of experts from the French speaking, but just speak French, for example. We have the question of the language barrier. It's very concrete thing. So the inclusivity is very important. And also to have a good relation between the citizen and administration and policy. I think that sometimes, I don't want to be like very policy, we would like to say a lot of things, but we need to be a clear role for the young people. For example, a lot of people think that you are young, so you go to the COP and you be co-creation, will be involved. No, you need to be very clear with the young people. You can participate, you can tell what's your story, what is your realities, but you know, I mean, you need to have a pact, a clear pact between the young people and the people to participate. So for example, for the youth dialogue, we have always a meeting before to explain to young people what is it, the youth dialogue, what is involved of that, and also to help that, because in this meeting, for example, we have new one, youth people, and more expert youth like you. And sometimes it's complicated that young people to arrive like a new one and not to know about history. So we need also to have time to explain everything about that. So that's, if I made, 3 very important stuff. So youth-friendly communication, the question of the participation and the co-creation of the youth, and also how it's possible to have more inclusivity for this step and level, because every time, if I may, a lot of people say that, yes, but Europe, what the Europe level do for the young people? Just to be clear that the young policy is a question of national level, it's a member state to be in charge of the youth policy, and in Belgium is the community aspect, so it's also very complicated to understand. So sometimes it's important not to explain the history, not to explain everything, but more about what you can do at your level. So that's example, the Game On, and all this project is very great because it's very concrete, very non-formal education, participation, methodology, etc.
Yes, the Belgian political structure is quite complicated. I remember during the COVID, there was a TV debate and 6 ministers sitting and discussing the issue, and all of was Minister of Health in Belgium, you know, in different levels, and so it was quite impressive for me. Okay, but the Belgian, you are on the international relation desk, so you have to see maybe the other countries practice how they have this youth policies. So our Belgium is a progressive countries in this respect, or not? So what is your impression?
Yeah, it's not comparison is not so great, but the Belgium is a very we have a lot of historic background regarding the consultation of young people, because we have a lot of, yes, we mentioned in the video, we have different sort of actor, the youth organization and youth center, and it's very great for that, for the consultation. Co-creation is quite new. We are trying to do the best to help for the co-creation for that. So that's, I don't know if we need to speak about that now, but about the youth test, for example, is a good
that's my following question. Yeah,
I'm trying
Jump
to be
in.
because I'm working for the administration level, so I'm very concrete expert for that. So for example, I'm trying to be the links between the local and the European level, because we have a lot of meeting, a lot of events. So one of the issue at the European level is the question of the youth test. So I mentioned the definition of what is a use test. So I don't know if you know, but in 21 and 22, we have the Conference of the Future of Europe. It was a pan-European meeting, conferences between citizen and European level to have different recommendations regarding different area. And for the use issue, we speak about the use test. So the use test is an impact assessment, if you want. So each law need to have an impact assessment regarding the use and how it's possible to manage if you find a better recommendation. And it's very interesting because when you read that, it's very great, it's perfect, you read, but after that you need to implement and to be sure that it's okay. So for example, in the French-speaking community level, just speak about my community because, for example, in Flanders, we have already a use test, but at the French-speaking community, we have a use check. So the difference between the check and test is about the consultation and not to be an assessment impact. So that's something very interesting. And my role is with this recommendation, how is possible to manage, how is organized in the French-speaking community. And we have a lot of discussion about that because, for example, use test, why only to speak about the use? We need to have multi-cultural, cross-sectoral approach. For example, we speak about environmental impact, we speak about intergenerational impact, we speak about labor market, etc., etc. So first question. Second one, who will do that? Who will be the lead for the impact assessment? It will be university, it will be administration, it will be a young organization. Who will be lead that? It's also a very important question, issue. So that's, for example, in my community, in the other country, for example, in Flemish department, it will be the ministry to do the joker. It's like, so it's a good question also, who will be lead for that? And also it's great to have this evaluation before, but what will be done after your decree and your law? What is possible to have a post-evaluation of the decree? Because use test is just at the beginning, but I think that it needs to be a process. It needs to be changed each year or different years. So what is the methodology? Because the methodology is also a very important issue. So that's, for example, an example of my job. So my job is like to have this kind of proposal and recommendation from the citizen, because the Conference of Europe is citizen to writing with some expert this recommendation, and how it's possible to implement or have an open discussion between the local level and the policymaker. So how is possible the use test? I'm trying to do, I choose use test because it's like a lot of discussion now at the European level. If you Google it, use test, you can see a lot of different actors at the European level to express why it's important to have that. But for me, it's very a good example because, you know, it's sometimes complicated to have a links between the European level because in the European level, you have a lot of tool, a use tool for the participation. You have DEAR, you have Erasmus+, you have Rapidly Core Solidarity, and the policy making at the member state level is also a different issue. So that, for example, a question of general is very interesting to have that, but after that, you need to have one more step. Why it's important to have a use test? It's important for who will be lead, how will be connected with other cross-sectoral approach, etc., etc. So that's, for example, a good example of the discussion that we have at the European level regarding the use policy.
Now it's much better and clear because first I was surprised when I see this use test. Okay, what can I pass it or not? You know, so. But now it's clear. Okay, we have only 15 minutes left, so I have to turn to the audience as well and to Thor. Do we have questions via internet? No. Questions from the audience, maybe from, yeah.
I've got a cheat sheet. So first of all, thank you very much. My name is Gintere. I'm from Lithuania. And it's not a question particular for any one of you. Maybe each one of you could give just 1 or 2 tips on how to create activities or actually involve youth in each of our country, because of course every country is different. Svetlana already said very well that every single country has its own context, who is involved and at what level and who isn't. But maybe you just could give us 1 or 2 things just to take away something we could implement, or at least to have an idea, a thought about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
just my tip is just go ahead. Go. It's okay. First, you need to find good people to explain what is your project and why it is possible to activity. Don't be afraid to be wrong and to be false, because I think it's very important for the step. And after that, yeah, you need to find the good people and the good organization to help you. You're not to be alone. Alone is not a good way. I think that you need to find other people and don't be afraid to ask. That's my tip for me.
Yes, I think I agree, especially about partnership and cooperation, not being alone in impulsing and initiating projects. Also, maybe trusting also the different actors that are already there and already doing incredible work, grassroots organizations, people who are actually in the field, who know who know the problems, who know the population, who know how to approach people also, and also, and maybe most importantly, consult with the youth. Don't be afraid to actually build the whole process with them, and not just give them something like already like a package deal of a project. Involve them in the construction of the project, involve them in being also listen to what the needs are, what they want to achieve, and don't be afraid to somehow deviate from what your original intentions were at the beginning, and be open to embarking on a process where you don't really know where you will end up and how you will end up there, but take the risk also to be surprised along the way, and to be in a position where you also keep learning as well as keep transmitting knowledge.
I would gamify my answer, Thor style. So level 1. Level 1 would be, well, I assume that in this room no one is at level 1, but if you want to help others, you need to understand their context. So level 1 would be people who have a very vague idea of maybe it's a climate issue or how the institutions are set up. And that's not their fault, of course, but we can help them. So at level 1, it is very important to understand what are the institutions in my country, how are they set up, what is the relationship between the stakeholders. So if we know that, for example, youth or the general citizens and the government doesn't have a really good relationship, well, we need to take this into consideration. So level 1 would be really familiarizing yourself with your own context, with how are the systems setups, what are the mechanisms, who are the stakeholders, what are their beliefs, what is the relationship between them. Level 2 is we're already having some awareness of this. We're not really into the whole process, but we know how are the systems, where to go if we have a certain question or concern, and that would be much more active participation. And I totally agree, we need definitely other people who are not only on the peer level, so not other peers, also stakeholders that have a little bit more authority, power in their decision making, and also expertise and experience. So that would come also intergenerational dialogue, institutional dialogue, and multi-sectoral dialogue would come here. And at this point, it is very important to look for others, look for the allies, and look for the peers. And level 3 would be very much involved. So at level 3, you're not only co-creating, you're not only taking action, and the action can be you lead an initiative, you find other people and you lead it together, or a project or an NGO or business. It can be any sort of initiative. And at level 3, you should also understand how you can interact with the other stakeholders. So not only how you impact the people around you or the environment around you, but also how you can impact decision making. So you can be an advocate for a topic that you're passionate about. Well, you have already passed the level 1 where you're researching. So you're already at level 3, you know what you're passionate about, what is your position, how is the current stakeholder analysis that you have performed. So you have a stakeholder map, you know where to go, who to find for whatever you need. And you can be an advocate, you can comment on the policies, you can co-create policies, you can also comment on the policies, and you can have general comments, specific comments, or comments on the language. So you can change the language to be more inclusive, to be more progressive, to be more decisive. And so that's the gamified approach, a la Thor. So that's how we can remember it.
Thank you. Next question.
I would like to know, we heard about from the survey that there is
Your
some
name,
more.
please.
Yes, my name is Lisa Kirz. I'm from the Romero Initiative, one of the Game On partners from Germany. And as we heard in the survey, there has been some more despair, youth being disencouraged by the necessary steps not being taken. Is that something you experience in your work as well? Maybe even leading to it being more difficult to include youth because they have the impression, anyways, nothing is changing, however much I'm trying. And if yes, how do you deal with this challenge? Thank you.
So yeah, I can start with Mindchangers. We have also experienced this difficulty in reaching out to the youth, in establishing dialogue, in trying to have them on board of something, of a project that is ambitious also, and that is quite demanding in the sense that when you see the current situation, of course, it is easy to feel discouraged and to have all those, eco-anxiety and all the other issues and troubles and things to think about and imagining the future. And it is a lot to ask to also see the positive side again, be engaged, be motivated, and reach out to other youth, bring people in. So we've realized that it is quite the challenge, but we've also maybe not following exactly the Thor methods, but we've also tried to do it in a progressive way. A focus on the concrete and very simple, very concrete steps that you can start with and then build from there. And we've also noticed that the snowball effect is actually quite effective and quite useful to lead by example also. So have the local initiatives that can actually get more visibility and inspire others to come and to join the movement little by little. We know that even if it's only a 4-year project, for example, we need to also think about the long term. So all that we do here is hopefully only setting the trend for something that will keep on developing later on. So this is our hope for the future of Mindchangers, for the future projects as well, to know that we can only plant a few seeds and hope that they will also grow and develop into something bigger later on.
Yeah, just to build up upon the answer, and I would say that's why it's very important to have the peer system, because that's a support system for you when you feel down. And climate anxiety is quite an issue. There are organizations that also help with that, peers that can help, and having a strong support system can help you with what you're dealing with in terms of feeling despair and disappointment about the actions. And I would say that relentless pursuit is my personal approach, because I know that the road would be bumpy, and I have my support system to lean on in terms, in cases something like a policy is not approved, or the action that we want to see is not there yet, or there is a new flood, anything that that affects us. So, but I know that we can aim for the best, and we would end up way better than we are currently. So this aspect of the relentless pursuit, and also knowing yourself and when you need to lean on your support system, is very important. And well, obviously it would have like what type of information you consume, because if you go down the spiral of the negative information, which is of course not catastrophized, it is real, but it can make you go more and more into that spiral where you think, oh, actually nothing is happening. So we have to balance that out with the information. Okay, well, we have done a lot for the ozone layer, we have done a lot to preserve a certain species. So there is also the balancing act of the actions and activities that are currently taking place. And it's very important to take that into consideration.
Just because, as already mentioned, I'm between, you know, the local and European politics. So it's very great because every time we have the same discussion. We have the youth structure and the youth people who say that, okay, in French you say, vous m'écoutez, mais vous m'entendez pas, you learn me, but you don't do nothing for that. And after that, I go to the police making, and he told me that, oh, you have the new generation, we have too many considerations for the youth, it's very great. And so that I'm between the two discussion between the participation of youth and emancipation. So I can understand that the youth people would like to be co-creation, but I can also understand that the policymaker is responsibility for the decision making, because we have the process of the democracy. So my position is to be a balance between that, as you say, because we have also in the culture approach for the non-formal. So we have different sort of the activism and emancipation for the young people. We have a lot of young people to be involved on the democracy step, etc. But we have also artists, we have also some people for the museum, some very different sort of activism. It's also important. So that always the same response. So for the young people, I say that I'm 10 years ago when I was young, it was no one, I don't, no one, yeah, still, but I'm the balance also with the age. When I was young, no one, when I was young, I was very political activity and political issue regarding the cooperation of the development, etc., etc. I have no idea of the whole mechanism that we have now, that the participation of young people of the decision making. So that for me an evolution in my point of view with my experiences. But I also understand that the young people say that yes, no more time, you need action now, and what we do. So that's the balance that we need. That's always, and when I say politician, I say yes, but can you? He said that I heard. I say yes, but can you? What is your response? What is the next generation? What is the next step? And that for me is a very complicated balance, because every time we have this discussion about the democracy deficit, of the question of the trust for the politician man, etc., is good way. But I'm always a positive people, so I prefer to speak of revitalization. I would like to say that we are no more the question of horizontal way, that we are just citizens, we just vote 1, 2 each for his. We have more in the co-creation. So please give your feedback. But when I already mentioned during my presentation, we need to be trust. When a politician met the youth organization and the youth structure, you need to be trust to say that, okay, I understand what you say, but we have in democracy, we have other aspects to take in account. So for example, the CUP is I think it's like 5 years ago that we have the youth delegate involved of this process. Is very great, but it's really new. So yeah, I would like to say, yes, I'm very optimistic, because now we have this co-creation, and I can understand your point that you say it's not enough because the time is running. So that's very imbalanced response for your question.
Svetlana, Béatrice, and Christophe, thank you very much your effort and your contribution to this panel discussion. I don't want to sum up the whole discussion. I only want to to grab one point, is that what I learned right now is if we have a key to solving the climate change and the mobilization of the youth, is the Thor method, if I'm not right. So thank you very much for your attention, and the coffee is waiting for you.